There is a heat building in the center of your body right now. You may have noticed it this morning. A low burn behind the navel. Not pain exactly, but pressure. Something rising. And alongside it, a pull you cannot name. A pull toward water, toward stillness, toward something you have been circling for months, but refusing to face. That pull has a source, and within the next 48 hours, the sky is going to tell you exactly what it is. On March 13th, at 8 degrees and 55 minutes of Pisces, Mars will collide with the north node of the moon. The ancients had a name for this. They called it the Red Gate, a threshold cut into the fabric of time itself, one you walk through only once and never the same person on the other side. This alignment happens roughly every 2 years. But in Pisces, in this exact degree, with Mercury retrograde and Jupiter freshly turned direct in its sign of exaltation, the last time the sky arranged itself in anything resembling this configuration, most of the people alive today had not yet been born. And here is what I need you to understand before we go a single step further. This is not an event you observe from the outside. This is not something happening to other people. This is a tide, and you are already standing in the water. Over the course of this video, I am going to walk you through 3 things. First, what is actually happening in the sky and why the astronomy beneath this transit makes it far more volatile and far more fertile than any standard conjunction. Second, what your body already knows. The specific ways this alignment is expressing itself through your nervous system, your sleep, your relationships, and the unnamed restlessness that has been shadowing you for days. And third, a practice, something physical, something that will meet this gate with intention rather than accident. The current is already moving. The only question is whether you will swim with it or be dragged. Stay close. Let me start with the sky itself, because what is assembling above you right now is not ordinary. Mars entered Pisces on March 2nd. The warrior stepped into the ocean. Think about that for a moment. Mars is fire. Mars is the blade, the fist, the first breath of a scream. It does not ask permission, it acts. And Pisces is the opposite of everything Mars knows. Pisces is the tide that dissolves edges, the mist that erases boundaries, the dream you cannot hold in your hands no matter how tightly you grip. When the planet of war enters the sign of surrender, something inside the sky begins to tremble. Force meets flow, and neither one wins. They merge. Now hold that image because this is where it deepens. The north node of the moon is not a planet, it is not a star. It is a point in space where the orbit of the moon crosses the path of the sun, and it is moving through Pisces right now at 8 degrees and 55 minutes. In Vedic astrology, this point has a name that carries 3,000 years of weight behind it. They call it Rahu, the head of the dragon. The story is ancient. A demon named Sarbanu disguised himself among the gods during the churning of the cosmic ocean, the great event that produced Amrita, the elixir of immortality. He drank. The sun and the moon saw through his disguise and alerted Vishnu, who drew his blade and severed the demon in 2. But the elixir had already passed the throat. The head became immortal. It became Rahu, a mouth without a stomach, a hunger that can never be filled. And across the centuries, Rahu chases the sun and the moon across the sky, swallowing them in eclipses, devouring light itself, searching endlessly for a body it will never have again. This is the point Mars is walking toward right now. The planet of action is about to step into the jaw of an immortal hunger. And when that contact becomes exact, something inside your life will be swallowed. Not destroyed, swallowed. Pulled into a space where the old rules dissolve, and what remains is only what is real. The Hellenistic astrologers understood this. They did not use the word Rahu, but they recognized the same force. When Mars met the ascending node, they called the moment the Red Gate, an initiatory threshold. You are pushed through it whether you feel ready or not. And the outcome depends entirely on what you carry with you and what you are willing to leave behind. Arabic astrologers in the medieval period added another layer. They wrote that Mars conjunct the node brings the return of old debts, not financial debts, soul debts, the lessons you skipped, the conversations you swallowed, The version of yourself you buried because the world told you it was too much. Those debts do not disappear. They accumulate interest. And when Mars meets Rahu, the collection notice arrives. Now bring your attention closer to the body. I told you at the beginning there would be signs. Let me name them, because if even one of these lands, you will know this transit has already begun working on you. The first is heat, a burn in the solar plexus, that soft space just above the navel that appears without explanation. You may have felt it upon waking. You may have mistaken it for anxiety, for acid, for something you ate. It is none of those things. Mars rules fire. Pisces governs the abdomen and the fluids that move through it. When the warrior planet enters the water sign and approaches the dragon's mouth, the body responds before the mind catches up. That heat is the friction between two forces meeting inside you. One pushing you forward, the other pulling you deeper. The second is a pull toward water. This one is stranger and harder to explain to anyone who has not felt it. Over the past several days, you may have found yourself lingering in the shower longer than usual, standing at a window during rain and not wanting to move, craving the sound of a river, the nearness of a lake, the weight of the ocean against your skin. Pisces is calling its children home. When Mars crosses this territory, the water element in your body responds like a tide answering the moon. You are not imagining it. You are resonating. The third is what I call flash clarity. A moment, usually sudden, usually uninvited, where you see with absolute precision exactly what needs to change in your life. A relationship, a job, a lie you have been telling yourself so long, it started to feel like truth. The clarity lasts 3 seconds, maybe 5, and then Pisces rolls in like fog, and the knowing fades back into uncertainty. If this has been happening to you, pay attention to the flash, not the fog. Mars gave you the flash. Pisces gave you the fog. The gate is in between. And the fourth sign is the most uncomfortable one. It lives in your throat. There is someone in your life, and you know exactly who to whom you owe a truth you have not spoken. Not because you forgot, because you chose silence to protect them or to protect yourself. You dressed that silence in kindness. You told yourself it was mercy. But your body knows the difference between mercy and hiding, and it has been keeping score. Mars conjunct the North Node in Pisces does not allow that protection to hold. The pressure to speak will build. The words will press against the inside of your chest like water against a dam. This is not cruelty. This is Rahu doing what it has always done. It consumes what is false, and what is false includes every silence you have used as a shelter. Now I need to pull the lens back because this conjunction does not arrive alone. On March 10th, 2 days before the energy window opens, Jupiter in Cancer turned direct after months of retrograde stillness. Jupiter rules Pisces. It is the lord of this entire territory Mars is crossing. And Jupiter stationed direct in Cancer, the sign of its exaltation, the sign where its wisdom runs deepest and its generosity is most potent. This means the ruler of the gate has just woken up. The road Mars is walking toward now has a guardian who is awake and moving forward for the first time in months. On March 15th, 2 days after the conjunction peaks, Mercury retrograde will conjoin Mars at the exact same region of the sky. Mercury, the messenger, the voice, the translator of all things seen and unseen, will retrace the steps Mars just took and land on the same degree the dragon's mouth was open. Whatever this conjunction shakes loose in your life, Mercury retrograde will circle back and ask you to look at it again, to revise your understanding of it, to hear what you missed the first time. This is not a single event. This is a sequence, a 3-act structure written across the second week of March. Act 1, Jupiter wakes. Act 2, Mars walks through the red gate. Act 3, Mercury returns to read the inscription above the door. And there is something else the sky is holding that most readings will not mention. Saturn and Neptune form their exact conjunction at 0 degree Aries on February 20th, the very first degree of the entire zodiac, a once-in-36-year alignment that marks the death of an old world and the raw, unfinished birth of a new one. A new cycle between structure and spirit, discipline and dream, bone and mist. That conjunction cracked the ground open. It split the old foundation down to the root. And now, less than 3 weeks later, Mars is walking across that cracked ground toward the mouth of the dragon, carrying every unfinished intention you have, every half-spoken truth, every direction you almost chose but pulled back from at the last breath. The sky is not asking you to be ready. It does not wait for readiness. The sky is telling you the gate is open and the tide has already turned. What matters now is what you choose to carry through. There is a paradox at the center of this transit that will determine whether it breaks you open or simply breaks you. And the paradox is this: Mars wants to fight. The North Node demands you move toward your future. But the sign they are meeting in Pisces would not let you do either one with force. Every attempt to push, to grip, to muscle your way through this threshold will fail. Not because you are weak, because the threshold itself is made of water. Think of a tidal bore. There are rivers in this world where the ocean does not stop at the shore. At certain moments, the tide pushes inland, reversing the current, sending a single wave upriver against the natural flow. The river does not cease to exist. It does not break, but for a time it moves in a direction it was never designed to move. That is what March 13th is doing to the current of your life. The tide of your destiny is pushing upstream, and the only way to move with it is to stop swimming against it. This is what the ancients meant when they spoke of the spiritual warrior. Not a soldier, not a conqueror. A being who fights by releasing, who wins by kneeling, who finds the blade not in the hand, but in the willingness to be honest when honesty costs everything. The Persian astrologers had an image for this. They wrote that when Mars meets the North Node, fate itself is sharpened like a sword being tested. And how is a sword tested? You heat the metal until it glows white. Then you plunge it into water. Steam erupts. The blade screams. But what emerges is harder than what went in. It holds its edge. It does not shatter. You are the blade. Pisces is the water, and this conjunction is the hand that plunges you under. What I'm about to tell you will require your full attention because this is where the transit stops being astronomy and becomes a mirror. There is something in your life right now that you have been protecting not because it is precious, but because dismantling it terrifies you. It might be a relationship that has quietly expired but still wears the shape of love. It might be a career path that stopped fitting years ago but carries your name, your reputation, the version of you that others expect. It might be a belief about yourself, something you decided was true at 15 or 22 and never questioned, because questioning it would mean that every decision built on top of it was built on sand. Mars conjunct the North Node does not care about your comfort. Rahu is a mouth without a stomach. Remember, it is hunger with no end. And what it hungers for right now is the false thing. The mask that has been on so long, you forgot it was a mask. The armor that once protected you, but now prevents you from being touched by the very life you are trying to live. This conjunction will reach for it, and if you hand it over willingly, the passage through the gate will feel like liberation. If you clutch it, the gate will still open, but you will be dragged through it holding something that is already dead. Now, let me tell you where this lands for the sign standing closest to the fire. If you were born under Pisces or carry Pisces rising, this conjunction is happening in your own waters. Mars and the North Node are meeting in your first house of identity, the house that governs who you are at the most fundamental level. The question being asked of you is not small. It is this: who are you when you stop performing? The self you show to the world has been carefully curated, softened at the edges, made palatable. This transit will put a match to that curation. What rises from the ash is the being Rahu has been hungry for all along. If you carry Virgo rising or strong Virgo placements, this conjunction falls across your 7th house, the house of the other, the house of the mirror. The relationship that has been reflecting a distorted image of you back to yourself is about to receive a surge of clarity. That flash I mentioned earlier, the 3 seconds of knowing, will arrive inside a conversation you have been avoiding. Let it come. The fog will follow, but you will have seen the truth, and you cannot unsee it. If you carry Sagittarius rising, the conjunction activates your 4th house, the house of roots, the house of the story you were told about, who your family is, and who you are inside it. Mars, meeting Rahu here, is a torch in the basement. It will illuminate something that has been sitting in the dark for years, maybe decades. A family pattern, an inherited silence, a deal you made with someone you loved that required you to make yourself smaller so that the structure could hold. The structure is cracking anyway. Saturn and Neptune already saw to that. This transit gives you permission to stop holding the wall up with your body. If you carry Gemini rising, this conjunction lights your 10th house of legacy in public life. The direction you have been moving professionally is about to be questioned. Not by your boss, not by the market, but by your own soul. Rahu in the 10th house asks one devastating question. Is the throne you are climbing toward actually yours? Or did someone else build it and you simply never stopped climbing because stopping felt like falling? Notice what happens in your chest when you hear your sign. That response is not intellectual, it is cellular. Mars is already inside the gate and your body is the first thing it touches on the way through. Now here is what you will do. The practice I am going to give you is built around the 3-act structure. The sky itself is using 3 days, 3 actions, each one calibrated to the transit unfolding above you. Day 1 is tonight, March 12th, before the conjunction becomes exact. Find a glass of water, fill it, hold it in both hands. Do not drink yet. Close your eyes and ask one question. What am I carrying that is no longer mine to carry? Do not analyze. Let the first thing that surfaces be the answer. Then drink the water. All of it. One breath. The water carries the knowing into the body where the mind cannot argue with it. Day 2 is March 13th, the day the gate opens. Step outside. It does not matter where you live or what the weather is. Stand on the ground, not pavement if you can help it. Soil or grass or stone, and face whatever direction pulls you. Do not choose with logic. Let the body turn. When you are facing the direction that feels right, speak one sentence aloud. I am walking through. Say it once. Say it as if the earth can hear you. Then walk forward. 7 steps. 1 for each of the classical planets whose light passes through this gate with you. Day 3 is March 15th, when Mercury retrograde meets Mars at the same degree the dragon's mouth opened. Take a piece of paper, not a journal, a single loose page. Write the name of the thing you are releasing. Beneath it, write the name of what you are walking toward. Fold the page once. Place it somewhere near water, a kitchen sink, a bathroom shelf, a windowsill where rain could reach it. Leave it there until the spring equinox on March 20th. When that morning arrives, open it. Read both names. Notice which one still burns and which one has already begun to dissolve. The one that burns is your heading. The one that dissolves was never yours. This practice is not a wish. It is not a meditation dressed in ritual clothing. It is a physical act of alignment, placing your body, your voice, and your hand into the same current. The sky is moving through. The passage does not care about your thoughts. It responds to what you do. And what the sky is doing right now has not finished. There is an old truth that only reveals itself at thresholds. You cannot learn it from a book. You cannot receive it second-hand. You can only know it the moment your foot crosses the line and the door behind you becomes a wall. The truth is this. You were never afraid of what comes next. You were afraid of who you would have to become to meet it. And that version of you, the one standing on the other side of the gate, has been waiting so long, it almost gave up. Almost. You did not find this video by accident. Something in you recognized the poll before I named it. Something in you already knew the gate was open. That knowing is not weakness, and it is not wishful thinking. It is the oldest and truest compass you carry, and it has been pointing here for longer than you realize. The red gate does not stay open forever. But right now, in this single breath, it is wide enough for you to walk through. Not the version of you that performs, not the version that asks permission, the one underneath all of that, the one the dragon has been hungry for. If you have walked through something while listening to these words, write its name below. Not the safe version, the real one. Your declaration written in that space becomes the first mark on the threshold, and somewhere beneath it, another soul will read your words and find the courage to name their own. These waters were charted long before you pressed play. Hours spent reading the sky so the course would be clear when you arrived. If this reached the place it needed to reach, a single tap carries this signal further across the water to someone whose gate is open tonight and who has not yet heard. Subscribe and open the bell, because the sky ahead of us is not quieting down. The gates keep opening and the next one is already closer than you think. The universe has spoken. What comes next is in your hands.